Hi everybody, this is Jeff Heilman here from IBM and wanted to run through a slide deck at the request of some folks who had asked me to build a video recording of the Watson & Cloud platform based on a whiteboard pitch where I've had success with several dozen CXOs in going about this message, and I think it's really relevant because it's focused entirely on the customer. So let's get started. So the first thing to note is that cloud is growing at about 40% compound annual growth rate per year. That's the good news. The bad news is some would say that IBM's not getting our share. So how can we change that? It's kind of the big premise. How can we get in on this cloud business? Amazon's growing very quickly, as is Google, as is Microsoft. IBM's growing very quickly as well, by the way. However, we want to make sure that we have a dominant market position, and we certainly have the tools and products today in order to make that happen. Cloud computing, rapid application development, and analytics is really coming at customers from a position that I think if we can really stay focused on the customer's business outcomes. Let's take one customer that I have, for example, who is in the healthcare space, and there was a couple of conversations that we had where they were like, look, we have real business outcomes in the area of reducing cost. We'd like to be able to help the student population do a little bit better job engaging them and helping them keep our graduation rates high. And the CTO that I was talking to had just gained traction in his role and been promoted. And so there was some visibility issues that he had personally. He wanted to make sure that he was communicating through his leadership that the organization that hired him into that role had made the right decision. So these are business outcomes. These are important to the customer at their level. And what we're seeing is that better decision making, which comes from insights, which come from analytics, is a real way that IBM can help impact these business outcomes, as well as a better method with rapid application development through the IBM Cloud and a lot of the development tools, environments, databases, VMware, etc., which allow for better productivity at drastically reduced costs, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So if we have a better method and we can help our customers make better decisions, that's the promise of IBM with analytics in the IBM Cloud. It's business outcomes and what's important to them. So if we look today at organizations, the good news is they already have the data, whether it's through social media, whether it's through Google Analytics and Google Cloud, AWS, the Microsoft environments that they have. We're not saying they shouldn't have these environments. We know they have them. They already have the data. They already have finance and HR and R&D and so many others. So if they already have the data that you can use to get better decision making from analytics, then the question becomes, how do we try to solve that gap? And the others can't help. They can't help the way that IBM can help. And I can say that because if you look at Amazon, Amazon does not have a hybrid or open source solution at this time. They're not coming from a position of on-prem. They're waiting for the rest of a $3 trillion market to get to the point where they're consuming only cloud. And it's just, we know that's not going to happen. If we look at Google, they're not really an enterprise IT company. They're an advertising company. They have huge compute. They have lots of applications. But the majority of their applications are used by consumers for no pay versus enterprise compute sold to businesses that we're used to in the software industry. If we look at vendor lock-in from Microsoft, that would be their Achilles heel. So each of these have Achilles heels. And IBM's biggest Achilles heel is really just belief. Getting this story right, helping customers understand that we're here to help them, and that we have services, which we'll talk about in a little bit, that the other companies simply cannot touch. So if we look at where dev test really doesn't cut it, what we see is that most customers have 1 foot over here on the side of security, and they have 1 foot over here in the area of cloud. But it's not a 50-50 weight distribution. This is 2 to 3% in dev test only. And so when you have compound annual growth rate at 40%, and yet customers are only deployed after 5 or 6 or 7 years, 2 to 3%, what we're seeing is our customers need to make this jump. It's critically important because the research and development, the best products, all of the financial engineering for companies is incentivized to help customers get to the cloud. But then the question becomes, why haven't they done it? And the way I look at it is, it's like having a shopping list at the grocery store. And on one line item, you could have get cat food. And the next line item would be get milk. And the next line item would be finish your MBA. Well, all of a sudden you have this record scratch come out of nowhere and say, what are you talking about? Finishing your MBA has nothing to do with grocery shopping. And not only that, it's not a single step. Getting cat food, getting milk, that's like deploying Amazon, AWS, or Microsoft Azure in piecemeal, tiny, single credit card transactions with absolutely no strategy involved. What the customer actually needs to be able to make this jump is to break down their momentum, their movement into cloud, into all the bite-sized pieces that you would need in order to do something as complicated as finishing your MBA. Once you take it into bite-sized pieces, the task isn't so difficult and people can start to see it at the end. This is what gets the reaction in the conversations I'm having in the C-suite. They say, yes, you guys get it. This is complicated. That's why we haven't taken more action. And really, bottom-up approach for Amazon is actually as frustrating on the finance side as it could be convenient on the developer side for instantiation of storage. Case in point, several customers I've spoken with says two problems with the Amazon Microsoft model. Number one, we don't know where the money is going. And number two, we don't know how to get off of it. There's no exit plan, and that's a term they've used. We don't have an exit plan from the competitor's cloud. IBM has an exit plan. We're very flexible, and I'll show you that in just a second. So, what does finishing your MBA in cloud really look like? Well, what it looks like is dealing with these roadblocks to productivity like security. Securing the workloads in transit, at rest, and managing the same types of policies in other people's cloud that you're able to manage on-prem. Governance, SLA maintenance. In the case of healthcare, one of their clients was a healthcare organization. The epic integration with moving to a software as a service model creates a whole host of problems on the back end. Agile software development, open source database adoption from the 30 and under crowd who've never moved any workloads into production on a Oracle or SAP or IBM database. VMware, which we'll talk about in a little bit, the VMware on IBM Cloud solution is the best in the industry. Monitoring. And then what about the soft problems that a third-party consultancy for advisory can actually play a big role with, as far as religious differences around technology, politics of getting things done in an organization, and the dollars associated with innovation and research and development. This represents the roadblocks for IT organizations moving to the cloud, all the while trying to work to maintain a world-class performance and compliance standard. This is where IBM's differentiator comes and sits right in the middle between the data sets that they have and the better method and better analytics that they can actually move to with our help. Now, if we look at Amazon, 65% of their $12 billion in revenue is storage. It's just storage. It's files and pictures moved to the cloud. Whereas IBM, 65% of $80 billion of revenue is equal to services. Amazon cannot touch our services department. And one example I found, a friend of mine, from a strategy perspective, let me know that Amazon's compensation model is, at least at the time, was somewhere around $30 million in revenue for $40,000 in incentive comp. That is transaction embedded in the comp plan. You don't have time to have a strategic conversation with a customer. The only conversation you can have with them is, are you ready to sign now or should I call you in a month? So our customers are feeling that. They can't get off of Amazon. They don't have an exit plan. They don't have services. They're not having a strategic conversation. And as a result, the world is passing them by. So as we come full circle and look at Bluemix or the IBM Cloud, VMware on IBM Cloud, and the Watson Analytics, these conversations juxtaposed against the problems, the roadblocks keeping our customers from moving to the cloud, represent your absolute best artillery in the field to go and talk about why IBM is positioned extremely well in order to help our customers do something that they already know they need to do. Thanks.